Hello, in this tutorial we're going to talk about using Google Drawing to achieve a mostly paperless classroom. Google Drawing is a product that's within your Google Drive, just the same as how you would use docs and slides and sheets and forms and all the other fun things. Google Drawing is there and available for you to create custom work for your students. So I'm thinking things like flowcharts and graphic organizers and customized images and headers for websites and everything in between. So let's dig in. Currently, you're looking at a Google Drawing. So I was able to create this custom header just for this presentation by using just my own creativity and the tools that are available here within Google Drawing. So first, let me show you how you can get to Google Drawing. This is my Google Drive. When I select New, I see the frequently accessed items here, but when I go to More, I see Google Drawing. So I'm going to go ahead and select, and I'm going to be taken to a blank drawing that's ready for me to create. So for starters, this pixelated area that you see here, that's my workspace. So for the purposes of this video, I'm just going to refer to that as my workspace. You'll notice that there are these little lines down here in the corner. I can click and drag to customize the shape of my workspace. I can also choose to come up here to File, and it's hiding right now because of my face, but you can choose Page Setup, and you can make this however you would like. So let's say that you're creating a document for class, that you want to have appear just like a normal piece of paper, which those are typically 8.5 by 11. When I click apply, then I have this standard piece of paper waiting for me. There are limitless possibilities within that page setup. So you'll notice that I just chose inches, but you can also do centimeters, points, and pixels if that's something that you would like to work with. And then you can also use the standard models that come with Google Drawing as well. So I'm just going to leave this as the standard for the moment. And then one other thing I'll show you before we move on to some of the other tools and icons is that with a right click, you can unlock some of the tools that you might want to use for your Google Drawing. Most specifically down here where it says background. So instead of this pixelated area of the gray and white blocks, if you choose background, you can then customize the color that appears behind on your workspace. Now, what's important to note here is that if you're trying to create an image that has no back, those are called PNGs. So if you're trying to create a PNG, then you'll want to leave it with this pixelated background. Otherwise, Google Drawing is going to see it as a complete, squared image here in this case, and it's going to save everything. So it will have a color back. It will not have a transparent back. Okay, so we have the normal header up here where we can access a bunch of our tools, and then we have a really helpful icon bar here as well. So you have the ability to add lines, you have the ability to add shapes and text, and bring in your images as well. You can also see in the Insert tab that this spells it out a little bit more for you. So you have charts of all kinds, you have diagrams of many kinds as well. So this is just a really easy way that you can access those different diagrams for your use as well. Now, one of the things that I want to take a moment to just kind of point out is when we're using Google Drawing, it's almost as if we're using a single slide within a Google slide deck or a PowerPoint slide deck if you're a PowerPoint user. These are almost interchangeable. Now, the difference here is this is just a single sheet rather than multiple slides, which is typically what you're working with Google Slides or with your PowerPoint. Okay, but for most purposes, like I said, they almost perform interchangeably. So if you're comfortable with slides or with PowerPoint, then there's a good chance you'll be really strong with your Google Drawing as well. All right, so let's get started. I'm first going to add a shape, and you'll see that there's a bunch of different shapes that we can pick from, including all kinds of really chunky arrows and math equations and all kinds of other fun things. I'm going to start out with just a really basic circle. So with a click and drag, you'll notice I can make something that's more of an oval, or I can make something that is pretty circular, and I'll let go. You'll notice that it comes with that default blue with the dark background. I can change those by looking up here in my icon bar. Hopefully you notice that when I let go of that shape, a bunch of different options appeared. So I'm going to talk through those here just briefly. To change the color of that circle, you'll want to select the paint bucket, and then you can pick any of the colors that are available to you. So orange is my favorite color, so we're going to make this circle orange. Okay, next up, if you want to change the color of the line, like let's say you didn't want it to be black, maybe you didn't want an outline at all, you can get rid of it with that transparent button. Okay, so now I have this really cool circle in here that is ready for me to continue to manipulate. The lines that you see next to it are for border weight. So I'm going to jump back here. Let's say I wanted a gray background. This currently has a border weight of 1, but you can increase that to whatever size you would prefer. So I'm going to make it 4. That way it's a really nice heavy border around that circle. And then you can even change what that looks like. So let's say I wanted it to be dots. Maybe this was some kind of image where students need to connect the dots for some reason. Then you could have that appear in dot form as well. You also see dashes, all kinds of different ways that these lines can appear. But for our purposes, I'm going to make that a solid line. Now you'll also see in here that it's asking for things related to font, right? This is a shape though. This isn't necessarily like a text box, but with a double click, you'll see that I get that blinking cursor ready for me to type. So I can say something like, this is where text goes. Now you'll notice that this is like perfectly centered. So I'm going to lay on my keyboard here for just a second. You'll notice that it continues to jump up and up and up. And now it eventually gets to a point where it doesn't really fit anymore. So keep in mind that, yes, you can type directly within your shapes, which is really helpful. It kind of like treats it as a singular item, but you may not have the customization to make your text appear the way that you want it to. So here's the hack around that. Let's say that I wanted to get rid of my text, right? I wanted it to appear in a different way. I can come back up here to my menu bar and choose text box. With a click and drag, I can now create that text box where, again, I can type pretty much anything I want to. Now the difference here is I can click and drag this onto that circle, and I can place it in the exact way that I want it to appear. So I'm not going to auto fit this. I'm going to shrink my box. And now maybe I want these words to appear up in the top for some reason. So I'm going to drag that up to the top. So again, this is a way that you can kind of customize your text in the way that it appears within a certain shape, just so that way you don't have to have it perfectly centered. Again, there's a time and a place for all of this, but like I said, this is just a nice little hack around how you can make all that appear. So I'm just going to call this title for the moment. You'll notice that all of those same text features apply because remember, I'm just using a text box here. I'm going to center this, and then I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. That way we can use this as kind of our example. So here's my title. I'm going to click and drag that up just a little bit more. Now it is up there in the very top. Okay, so this is a good looking circle. It's exactly what I had hoped for, and it's going to work for me for this upcoming assignment. Now, currently, there are 2 separate items here, but I'd like for them to travel together, right? I want to group them. So if you click and drag in an empty space, you'll notice that it has selected that text box as well as my larger shape. With a right click in that area, you get a bunch of different options, right? So you can choose to rotate this whole thing. You can choose to center it on the page vertically or horizontally. You can choose to align these items as well. So what it's going to do is it's automatically going to change both of those items to be horizontally or vertically aligned. And I'll show you an example of that here in a little bit. What I'm searching for is group. So when I select group, now if I go to click and drag, then both of them are traveling together. This is really important if you're working with students and you don't want them to miss out on certain items. You want things to travel together. This is definitely the way to make that happen. Okay, so for our purposes, while we're here, I'm going to make another circle, but I'm going to put it down here in this bottom area. And then just so that way, again, one more time, we're showing how to fix this up. I'm going to click that pink bucket, and I'm going to make this one green. Actually, I'm going to make this one yellow. Let's make this one yellow, and let's make it a little bit bigger. Okay, so what I promised you before was that when you select multiple items, you can right click on it, and then you can choose to align horizontally, right? Notice how that just kind of flipped everything up together. And then I'm going to do it one more time to align vertically in the middle, right? So now it's almost as if that orange circle just disappeared, right? But let's change our order, right? When I right click, that's another feature. So I'm going to change the order now that I have multiple items on here, and I'm going to choose to send this to the back. Now I have a perfectly aligned yellow circle on the bottom, and I have this nice new orange circle waiting on the top. Okay, so by using that align, you can make sure that things are looking exactly the way that you want for them to appear. Okay, so I'm going to set this off to the side, and this is just another great reminder, if you're unaware, that this gray space on the outside is also workable, right? When we first started, I told you that when you save something or when you download as like a PNG or a JPEG, and I'll show you where that is underneath File, go to Download. You can save these as a bunch of different file types. But when you download this, the only thing that's going to come across is whatever is in this pixelated area. It's important to note, though, that things that are outside of this workspace, so I would just call this the gray space is workable. So let's say that this was an assignment for students that you wanted them to like click and drag something over. Maybe they're making labels, like I'm thinking almost like parts of a flower, or like if you were trying to diagram a map and you wanted students to place a flag in a certain area, then by having the flags over here, they could click and drag them onto the map, right? That would be pretty cool. So put those flags over here in the gray area. You would share this with your students either with this link, or you can share this in Google Classroom and then have a copy ready for every student so that then they can do the activity. By placing it in this gray area, again, you're basically doubling the size of this current workspace that I have by putting things over here on the outside, which is really cool. So definitely an opportunity that you will want to take advantage of. All right, so let's play pretend. I would like to add an image. Okay, so I'm going to insert an image. You see that you can upload from your computer. So if it's a file that you already have, you can get it from there. You could get it from your drive, from your photos, by a URL, or you can take a picture from your camera. So just for fun, I'm going to search the web here. And like I mentioned there a moment ago, I thought doing a map would be pretty cool. So I'm going to insert this image of a map. I'm also going to expand this picture so that it makes it a little bit bigger here within my workspace, and I'm going to center it up. Remember, as you're moving things around, those red bars are here to help you align things perfectly as well if you don't want to use those alignment buttons. Okay, while we're here, I do want to show you one other thing. So this is my image, right? Anytime you bring an image in, you get a bunch of different options. So you could choose to replace that image. You could choose format options and really play around with the size and rotation, with the position. You can recolor things. You can adjust them. You can give them drop shadows. You can do all kinds of custom things. One of my favorite things, and it's kind of a sneaky way to get around cropping images, instead of selecting this icon here to crop the image, I'm going to click this drop down to mask this image. And I'm not going to keep it this way, but I just want to show you how it works. What I'm basically doing is I'm going to customize this image based on a shape. So for whatever reason, let's say that I really wanted an arrow with a map of the United States on it. So I'm going to select this arrow, and notice how my image has changed significantly. So now I have this arrow that can be moved all around. You'll see here too, I can move this with this little arrow to create different directions. I can expand it. I can do all kinds of fun things just by masking it. Let's say that I wanted to go back to that regular square. Now everything is is there again. So again, to find that, I just went up here next to crop image. It's a little hidden drop down, and now I can create that customized shape to mask the shape of my image. All right. In the example that I mentioned a moment ago, I said it would be really cool if you could plant a flag. Let's go out and find one. Now, remember, as I was talking there a moment ago, I was talking about PNGs and JPEGs. So a JPEG is going to have a white background, right? It's solid. It's those shapes like you think like the clip art where it has the white background and you can see the white background if it's on a color and it looks really silly. This is an example of a PNG. I know this is a PNG because it has that pixelated background behind it, just the same as my image here. Okay, and in our example, this tree was a PNG. This computer with the paper coming out of it was a PNG. It would look really silly if this had like that square white behind it on this gray background, right? That's not what we're looking for. So what I want to do is find a flag. And in my Google search, I'm going to do an image search with the letters PNG after it. So let's see what we get. I'm going to choose this orange flag because, again, orange is my favorite color. And you'll notice that it has that pixelated background, right? So this would be a good image for me to pull over. I'm going to look at this orange flag too, and this one looks like it would work as well. So I'm going to pick this one because I think I like the shape of that a little bit better. I'm going to copy that image, and then I'm going to come over to my drawing, and I'm going to paste it in. I know that this has successfully created that PNG because there's no white background behind it. Okay, so maybe for this assignment, I want my students to place a flag where they are currently located. You'll notice that this image has a little bit extra. If I double click on it, I get the black bars to crop my image. So I'm going to grab that and pull in. I'm going to grab down below and pull up. And then I'm going to hit over here. I almost let that one go first. I'm going to come over here and pull that one in too, and then hit my enter key. So basically all I did was shrink the workable space. So this is basically creating an easier workspace for students where things aren't necessarily going to be overlapped. So let's say that I want my students to place a flag for where they are currently, and then place a flag for all the states that they have visited. Okay, let's set that as our assignment. Instead of having like let's say just one flag over here and asking the students to figure it out, or even trying to do like a copy and then a right click paste, you can create multiple of these flags with a hidden key code. So on your computer, if you were to select this item, right, notice how it has the blue bars around it, and hit Control D, that's going to duplicate this image. So now I have two flags here and I have this next flag up. So what I'm going to choose to do is hit that a couple different times because I know that maybe students have traveled to quite a few places. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to select all of these flags, and I'm going to try and be really careful that I don't select my map as well. And then I showed you that trick there just a moment ago with a right click, align horizontally center, align vertically in the middle. And now it's almost as if I have an infinite clone of these different flags, which is really, really cool. So again, you could choose to do however many you want. Maybe there's a really ambitious student out there who is well-traveled, and you need to have 50 flags on here ready for them. Again, that's just highlighting every shape that you want to stack. You'll choose align horizontally center, and then you'll choose align vertically middle. And now you have that infinite clone. So again, this isn't just one flag. Now there's seemingly a whole bunch. So let's say that this was that assignment for students. You shared this out with your students via Google Classroom. I have my own copy. So now I can take this flag and I can drag it exactly where I am here in Ohio and get it right up there in Northeast Ohio. And ta-da, here is my one flag planted. Now I've been fortunate enough to travel to quite a few states. So I'm just going to drop this flag mostly over here. I've been to Texas, I've been to New Mexico, and so on and so forth. I'm not going to bore you with all of my travel history, but again, just notice that this infinite clone has been placed on here, which is really, really cool. Now, there are a bunch of other superpowers that you can do here within your Google Drawing. When an item is selected, you have a bunch of options up here across the top. When certain items are selected, you'll notice that a flag, or I'm sorry, when I select this flag, this link appears. So you can link to different things as well. So let's say that this was my assignment. When a person clicks this flag in New Mexico, maybe I want them to find out more information about New Mexico. So what I'll do is I'll come over here to my search. I'm going to go to all. And now this is the official New Mexico website. I'm going to copy that link address. I'm going to come back in here and choose to paste that out to you. So now when a person selects this flag here for New Mexico, they will be able to visit the official Visit New Mexico website. So linking things out through here is really helpful as well. There are a bunch of other tools that are available to you as well. So you can choose to link objects through. You have your dictionary. You also have your Explore button, which is really helpful. So this is kind of like doing a Google search, whether that be for items, whether that be for like images. You're basically doing a Google search right here within your Google Drawing. And then you don't have to go out to the internet, kind of like how I did up here to find those items. Within Insert, you have a bunch of other possibilities as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new one, and I'm going to show you some things that are available using that insert. All right, so we've learned a bunch so far. I'm really excited. Hopefully you've already been thinking of some applications that you can use, because really it's limitless. It's, the possibilities for Google Drawing are really up to your imagination. Okay, so I'm going to scroll down here to diagram. And for this one, I think I'm going to choose hierarchy. Okay, choosing hierarchy gives me a couple different looks. And I think for this one, I'm going to choose this look. And then instead of 3 levels, let's do 4, right? So here's my 3. If I don't want that, notice how I can choose like little individual pieces and parts. If I click and drag over the whole thing and select delete, it sends that entire table away. Let's pick this one with 4. Notice how you have different color presets in here as well. So if you wanted to change that up and kind of mix and match to fit things, you can do that as well. And when I select, it puts it out here into my workspace. If you wanted to increase the size, you can select them all, and you can pull into those different areas to increase the size. You can even do individual boxes as well. So let's say for whatever reason you wanted this one here at the top to be really, really big, then you can do that as well. You'll notice that it comes with default text in there, so that's called lorem ipsum. It's just default dummy text. It doesn't really mean anything, and then you can customize this however you would like. So let's say this is like my title, and then this one is, again, just sample just to get some text out here. This is chapter 1, and this is chapter 2, and for whatever reason, you're building this kind of hierarchy, right? So know that these kinds of tables are ready and available for you as well. In the resources for this video, I'm going to include a folder that has all kinds of graphic organizers waiting and available for you to make a copy. That way you don't have to create things from scratch. However, with a little bit of creativity and with a lot of bit of your imagination, you can create these amazing custom work pieces for your students to breathe new life into your classroom and to help create that mostly paperless environment. If you have any questions, please feel free to send them my way. Otherwise, thanks so much for watching this video.